guys, it's Jake here, and this is the knife that we're looking at today. This is the MOCADO by Petrified Fish. Now, just before I get into all this, I've been not fairly sick, just mildly sick, but exhausted, like for almost a week now. And so I'm gonna do a low effort video. So I'm not gonna put text on the screen. I'll put one picture in that shows the 5 different ways you can get this. Other than that, you're just gonna have to listen and take a close look. I'm not gonna do any close-up pictures and stuff, and I'm probably not even gonna edit much of this at all. So you'll hear ums and ahs, and there might be a silent point, and there might be whatever. But I wanna get this video out there. I wanna do something at least semi-productive. So we're gonna take a look at this today. Yeah, the MOCADO. Comes in a decent little box, and you get a microfiber cloth and you get a sticker, but I wanted to show you this. You get some spare screws, and so there's 5 screws in there, 4 black ones and 1 little silver one. So that leads me to believe, I think there's more screws in here than, like the fact that there's a little silver T6 in there. That's pretty small. Sort of a button screw style, but not terrible. Let me see. Yeah, it's not got a lot of play in it. So we've got recessed, almost a button screw right there. So 2 of those on that side, and of course a T8 over here on the pivot screw. Again, not a lot of play in it. And there's no screw head for the thumb studs. Almost said stop pins for the thumb studs. They look like they've been titanium coated, because the rest of the stuff has got titanium coating on it on the blade. But they're nice and grippy thumb studs, and we got a flipper right there as well. This is a pretty big knife. I'll go through all the measurements in a little while. Like I said, it comes 5 ways. Here's that picture of the 5 ways. White Mountain Knives does not have the blue one. They got the other one. This is sort of like liquid G10, white and black, and then it solidifies in there, and so you got 2 nice lines, and the rest is G10. So this is a G10 handle scale. The blue and black and the yellow and black, that's all G10 as well. And then they got one with a carbon fiber. So the carbon fiber inlay costs the most. This is the second most, and then the G10 color versions are all the same. And they've all got the same blade treatment, except for you can get one of the yellow ones with this section here. They're saying it's satin, but the pictures look more like it's got a fine stonewash, maybe a bead blast. I don't know. I haven't seen really good pictures of that one, but the rest of them are all like this. This is a titanium coating they put on here, and then they did a light stonewash finish, so black wash finish, and then of course they sanded the flats, and so you've got that sort of 2-tone look to it. Some people are going to call this a tanto. I don't call this a tanto. This is a clip point with a compound grind. We've got a hollow grind along here, and then this is a flat saber grind kind of thing, and which means you got a pretty stout blade right there. The tip on it is going to have a fair bit of thickness quickly behind it. And I did some stabbing tests, and yeah, it does come thick, and so depending on what you're stabbing into, you can get some resistance because of how quickly it goes from the edge to the full thickness, right where the tip of that silver is. That's full thickness of the blade stock right there. So yeah, and this edge here is pretty thin, and this edge here behind the grind, the silver part, the sharpness, the apex grind, how thick it is behind the grind, a little bit thick here and quite thin here. And you can see there's a transition point right there. When I go to sharpen this, if I sharpen this for myself, if I keep this knife that long enough, I'm just going to sharpen it as if it's a single grind, not a compound grind, and so there's not going to be a distinct kind of line there. That doesn't really there's no advantage to making it a distinct line there, but looks wise, I think it just looks cleaner if it had the same edge grind. So the grind angles are different along here than they are along here, and it just makes it more wonky by doing it 2 different sharpening steps. But I can see why they did that at the factory. These pocket clips. The pocket clip is one side only, but the thumb studs, yeah, they've got, hopefully you can get a good look at that. There you go. You can see that, I'm sure. It's got 5 different little notches in there, and you've got the steps up there. It's very grippy. So when you go to deploy this blade, and it's basically a right-hand knife, it works really well. It's got quite the loud clunk to it. Not as much access on the left side, but you can deploy it from the left side just fine. It's just like I said, your pocket clip is right side only, and that's steel with the titanium coating on it, and it's a decent pocket clip. Not a super deep carry. Yeah, let's just show that right away. Let me move this over here. And yeah, see, climbs over right away. And if you put it on an angle a bit, you know, it'll sit like that. You're not gonna have anything else in your pocket then. If you go straight up and down, I generally don't have much in my pocket when I've got a knife, especially when it's bigger like this one. This one's not that small, but it's got a decent look to it. It doesn't look bad in the pocket like that. So yeah, I don't mind that. Let's keep going on this handle. We've got, you can see liners right there. They've also got a black coating. And then we've got this G10 back spacer, and you've got a hole through there for your lanyard. I don't have anything thin right here right now, so I can show that to you. Let's just take a piece of cardboard so I can show that to you. See, it's not all that sharp anymore. It's fraying a bit, but it's okay. And this is after my testing, of course. During my testing, it did okay, and no scuffing on the blade. Like, it didn't take off the coating, so that's well done. So there you go. See, you can put paracord through there, and not a problem. The edges of it might be a little too crisp. If you find that you can't fish through your paracord as easily, you might want to take it apart and then just sort of round off those edges. You can't on the steel liners, but on the G10, that might help you get it through. I don't know. You do you when you need to. So, but there you go. It's got 2 lines milled in it. Just a little bit of texture, just a little bit of extra niceness to it. If you try to do a fighting grip, it's not that bad putting your thumb along there because it does have, you know, a little bit of width. But if you take a close look at that, you can see that these lines are not milled right down the middle. They're shifted over a little closer to this side than this side, so it's not perfect. Again, this is in the budget range. I'll go through the prices in a minute. So, you know, I don't mind that it's not perfect. It's pretty good. It's pretty good the way it's lined up and done. Lockup, let's take a look at that. There you go. The lock arm is just engaged, and it's fully engaged. Lots of room for it to wear over, nice and solid. No there's no blade play side to side, up and down. Lockup's really nice. And to release the lock, the arm's got a bit of a chamfer right there where my thumbnail's sliding, so that's kind of nice. And it's not hard to get that, you know, lock out of the way. Let's get right to the middle of the screen here. And, you know, close the knife. Blade alignment when it's closed, it's just slightly off to this side, but it's not bad. It's really obvious that it's off to that side because of the way you've got that sort of diamond kind of shape, you know, stretched out diamond, and it really fills up the space. So it looks like its alignment's off worse than it is. If you just look at that, and now focus over here. There you go. Now it doesn't look like the blade alignment's off at all. It's just because it comes and looks like it is. But there's no rubbing or anything, so I'm fine with that. That's not a problem. We got phosphor bronze washers. You can just sort of, yeah, you can see a glint of them right there with some ceramic ball bearings in there. I'll probably take this apart later on. Flipper's got some jimping on it, 3 lines milled in there, and, you know, light switch method goes really well. And just sort of pushing off to the side works quite well as well. And of course the thumb studs, which I'm fond of, I like thumb studs, work as well. And of course then that flipper, you know, turns into a little bit of a guard if you're going to be puncturing into stuff. Okay, what else do we have here? Things that are good badging. You got your P.F. on the pivot pin. Nothing else on this side for badging. And then just a little right there where my fingernail's pointing, PFP08 K110. Yeah, K110, that's Bowler's version of D2. Is it better than regular D2? Maybe, but it's ever so slightly better. It's a good D2. And so we got a carbon steel blade. So you got a little bit of, you know, surface that doesn't have a protective coating on it. You know, just take care of your knife. If you're in a situation where corrosion happens very easily, then maybe you don't want a carbon bladed knife for in your pocket. I tend not to want carbon blades in my pocket, but you know, it's not terrible, especially where I live. It's not a big deal. It's just not my preference. Sharpener's choil is a pretty good size. It doesn't come quite far enough, just like most knives, because this plunge here, where it goes from full thickness to the main bevel thickness, that transition is so gradual that the transition hasn't ended before the sharpener's choil has ended. And so you've got wonkiness right there. When you go to sharpen the knife all the way to the end, it's going to create, you know, a little bit of an ugly spot right there. And that's just the way it is. I really think they need to make bigger sharpening choils on knives. No one brand does this a whole lot better than others in this price range. It just sort of tends to happen in this price range that the sharpener's choil, you know, doesn't meet up with the, you know, plunge properly. You know, it ends before the plunge does. And I showed you close-ups of what was it, QSP knife the other day. Watch that video. It'll show up at the end of this video because I think it was my previous video. It just happens a lot. Yeah, it's not a big deal in my mind in this price range, but I like to point it out because it's a real thing. What else do we have? We've got some jimping on the spine of the blade here, which is quite nice, big, chunky jimping, and my thumb likes it. It's not really a forward grip, so it doesn't need more jimping, so that's kind of nice. And then we've got this swedge up here, so it goes a little bit thinner. And then, of course, to the full thickness right at that point. Not bad, not bad. It's okay. It's a decent slicer, decent cutter, and decent piercer. It doesn't really excel at any of those three. There you go, that's three. It doesn't really excel at any of those three things, but hey, it's quite decent. It works okay. Looks-wise, it looks pretty good. Pocket clip is, you know, a unique pocket clip just for this knife. I wish they would have made two. You know, if they went to the trouble of, you know, giving screws and stuff extra, why not make an extra pocket clip? Yeah, it would increase the price by $2 or whatever you have to do to make it work. But, and then put a spacer on this other side. I do like having a nice clean look here, but not everybody's right-handed. So, oh, my camera's just a little closer than I wanted it to be. Just a second here. Let me move this. There we go. That's what I want to do. So, yeah. Now, what was I saying exactly? I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, pocket clip. I would like it to be lefty as well. You know, that would make it much more ambidextrous if you had the left option. And, you know, a black coated spacer in here that would keep it looking nice and clean still. So, yeah, I wish that was there. Now, this is a thicker knife, and I'll go through the measurements in just a minute. And because it's thicker right here where your index finger wraps around. And these edges here, they're slightly broken. They're just slightly chamfered. By broken, I mean, you know, they're chamfered. You know, they've sort of taken a 45-degree and milled just a little bit off. I'd like that to be more rounded or made a little bit thinner. It's just a little bit annoying right here. It's pretty minor, but you get a minor bit of a hot spot in and across, you know, that part of your finger. When you're holding it, right or left-handed, it's pretty much the same thing. But yeah, not terrible. Okay, let's go over the prices now. The price of this thing, how much is it? Well, you can go to White Mountain Knives and buy it there. Save 10% with coupon code CCE. And I'll leave a link below the video and in the comments. $58.99 for the G10 versions, except for this one, this sort of Damascus kind of stuff. This one is $64.99. And take off 10%, that makes it $58.49. The other one's $53.09. Or the one with the carbon fiber is normally $69.99 equals $62.99 with the discount. So in Canadian dollars, that's roughly 75 Canadian for the cheapest version. I didn't see a store in Canada that has this. Blades Canada's got a number of petrified fish knives. They might get this in the future, but on the day I'm recording this in early December 2024, no, they didn't have it listed there. But go ahead and check there in the future and who knows, maybe it'll be there, because this kind of knife is not going to easily cross the border into Canada safely. If it gets inspected by the border services guys and gals, it's probably going to get stopped. Let's do the other measurements on this. The weight of this thing, 155 grams. Yeah, that's almost 5.5 ounces, 5.47 ounces. A little bit heavy. Oh, by the way, I didn't do that, did I? That balance point right there, not terrible. I don't mind it right there. The sharpness from the factory, I got a score of about 175 bests on average for 3 tests. So not bad. It's thinner here, so it cuts a little more easily. I'll go through that in just a minute. The length of the cutting edge, so a straight line between my thumbnails there, is 89.2 millimeters, 3.51 inches. From the tip to the closest spot on the handle, that is 91.3 millimeters, 3.59 inches. So if you've got a 3.5 inch law where you live, like my friends in Nebraska, for certain types of carry, you know, they can have bigger knives, but for certain types of carry, there's a 3.5 inch law. You know, this one's just over that, so you got to be careful with that. The blade thickness, the blade stock here, 3.76 millimeters, 1.48 of an inch, so a little bit over 1/8 of an inch thickness to start with, and all the way along that shiny satin finish section is that same thickness. Like I said, that makes it a strong blade with a strong tip, which is a really good thing a lot of time. The blade depth, that's this measurement, is biggest right about here. It's a little bit narrower here than it is here. That is 29.6 millimeters, 1.16 inches. The thickness behind the grind, so in this section where the hollow grind comes to the edge, it's about 0.4 millimeters, 16,000ths of an inch thin. So that's why it cuts quite well. Up here it's a bit thicker, it's about 0.74 millimeters or 29,000ths of an inch thick. So this part, you know, just it needs a little more effort to push into stuff. And the sharpness, slightly below average. Like I said, 175 is slightly less sharp than the average knife I review, but it's not unsharp. Like it comes sharp from the factory. The next things here, the handle length, that is 118.5 millimeters, 4.66 inches. The grip area, it's a bit over 10 centimeters or 4 inches, a little over, like it's 104 millimeters or something, just over 4 inches. So you got a lot of grip area in there for some big hands. The thickness of the handle scales, right along the thickest part down the middle here, that is 14.4 millimeters, 0.567. So, you know, a decent amount over 1/2 inch thick. And it's sort of rounded. It's not flat. It's not a flat slab. It's a little bit rounded, so it gets thinner at the spine and it gets a little thinner here at the belly. The handle, what's the next thing? The handle depth within the grip area is widest right there. That is 29.1 millimeters, which is 1.14 inches. And when the knife is closed, the widest point in your pocket is right here with the flipper. 39.0 millimeters, 1.53 inches. So 1.5 inches in your pocket. Not bad. Most of it's a bit less. And the total length is just under 210 millimeters, about 8.25 inches. So yeah, not bad. So yeah, I think I'll take this apart because I'm not going to do much editing and stuff, so I don't have to show you all that. So I'll show you what we find in here. And let's get this back one up. Ooh, that's tight. And I don't want to try too hard. There we go, it's coming loose. There we go. And I think that silver T6 screw, I think the pocket clip screws in from the inside. That's the only thing that makes sense. Is that all the way loose? Yeah, that's all the way loose. Let's undo that lock so the tension's off of it. And this should come off. There we go. Yeah, there we go. See, there's the screw there for the pocket clip. And you get a spare one of those. So you can strip that out. As long as you can get it out, you got a new one. So that's okay. And these screws, they're decent. They're sort of like button screws. They're sort of like flat screws, but they go in kind of deep into into there. So they're also kind of little points of catching lint and crap like that. Liners got a little bit of skeletonizing on them. They could use a little bit more. Yeah, that lock tension's a little... That's pushing over quite hard. I didn't feel too much tension on the knife. Like, I didn't find that it was pushing too hard in terms of a lot for lock release. So, and for the detent was a little strong, but it's not terrible. But here's something I'm not all that fond of, and this happens quite a lot on knives these days, because we've got this stop pin, there it is, this stop pin, and it goes right there. It goes right next to the pivot. That means we've got this thin area, so we've only got this narrow bit of steel here and this narrow bit of steel holding the knife onto the pivot area. I don't like that. I'd rather have the stop pin higher up, even if it gets rid of some of that jimping and gets in the way, so that it's just sort of wider all the way across. I don't like this potential point of failure here. What are the odds that that's going to fail? Pretty low indeed. But yeah, but then they had to do something here for this, but they could have made the lock engage a little bit further down. If they would have kept it thick and put the stop pin, out here, then the lockup could be here. So they got their reasons. I might not be as smart as I think I am. Well, I know I'm not as smart as I think I am half the time. And I'm not a knife expert. I'm a knife nerd who knows a lot about knives, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert per se. I just prefer it the other way. I don't like having such a small section of support on the pivot area. So there you go. It's a little bit dirty. I should clean that up. These screws, ball bearings. What do we got? We got 4, 8, 10 ball bearings, ceramic ball bearings in there, so that's not bad. And it's a nice, decent size. The pin here has a D-shaped pin, and there's a D-shaped hole. I don't know if you can see it clearly in here or not, that it's a D-shaped hole, but it is. That keeps it from spinning. That's how they can have just the nice design like that without having a screw head here. And yeah, not bad. So let's put this back together again. I'm just going to wipe this down a little bit. I might delete a little bit of this section of me cleaning this up and putting it back together. You don't need to see all that. Maybe I'll leave it all in. I don't know. Depends on how much effort I want to put into this today when I go and upload this and edit it. So yeah, I'm going to use my Gunny Glide. I'm not going to change the tension on that lock bar arm because I don't want to. Now I've got my head tucked underneath the light here so that I can see what I'm doing. There we go, just a tiny bit of oil, not much at all. Hopefully it's focused on that. I don't know. It's not focused on that. There you go, just the tiniest little bit of oil. I think I got too much on there, more than I like to have. I don't like to put a lot of oil on my knives. It's just, they don't need it. Let's put the stop pin in. Especially when you got a really good oil like Gunny Glide. It's just a really good lubricant. And put that on there. Oh yeah, here's your G10. Like I was saying before, for this backspacer, if you want to make it a little bit easier to get the knife in and out, or the lanyard in and out, this edge right here that I'm making a little bit gray because I'm rubbing on it, that edge, you might want to just sand on that just a little bit on both sides if you're having trouble getting your paracord in and out. Now, you can just take this whole backspacer off and use it, because the pins here have got shoulders on them, so it'll go together and hold strong and tight just fine even without the backspacer. So if you don't like how this looks, just slightly uneven or whatever, you don't have to use it. There's no obligation. It's your knife. Once you've got it at your place, you can do with it whatever you want. All right, let's put this back together here. Nice. Here, let's use this. I like this better. finger bit from Skiff Works. If you've not seen my video for this, check it out. These are really, really nice. I like them. And I've got a discount code for you on this too if you want. I'll leave that down in the links below as well. I can't use that for these screws because the pocket clip's going to be in the way. Unless I used a longer screw. Which do I have one handy right here? Oh no, that's a T6. You know, you can also get longer screws like this and they can fit in there just fine as well. But then it's essentially the same as, you know, these ones. And let's put that in there. I'm not going to tighten that up really. I usually wait, I've got it in place, but I don't tighten it up until I've tightened up my pivot screw. And if that's nicely aligned, then I just leave it that way. Yeah, nice and snug, no blade play or anything right there. So now I'll tighten these up the rest of the way, just that last little bit. That way there's no extra stress on this pivot. There's nothing pulling side to side or a little bit. Sometimes if your blade's just not aligned at all and it's rubbing on one side, what you do then is you leave these loose. You don't tighten this up all the way either, but then, you know, let's say that the blade was too far that way, like this one, then you hold it like this, you push with your thumb, you push the blade over, and then you tighten your body screws. But, you know, and then after your body screws are tight, then you tighten up this, and you might have it a little bit straighter. What I don't like about that is it puts extra pressure in odd places on your ball bearings and stuff. It's just not a nice thing for the whole mechanism, especially your ball bearings or washers and stuff. So I don't like to do that if I don't have to. And so there you go. It's just like it was before. Decent alignment. I like that quite a lot. So there you go. Do you guys have one of these? Do any of you have one? Let me know in the comments below what you think of it. Are you planning on getting one now that you've seen this video? Just let me know. Oh, I got to do all the measurements, don't I? I forgot about that. So no, I did do the measurements. What am I thinking? So the main con for me on this one is it's a little bit heavier than I'd like. Over 5 ounces, almost 5.5 ounces for basically 3.5 inch blade. Yeah, I don't know. It's okay. It's not terrible. It's just a little bit heavier than I would prefer, but it's got a lot going for it. Yeah, my voice probably changed during the making of this video, all the talking that I'm doing here. Yeah, I've got a sore throat, I got a little bit of a cough, I got nasal congestion, I got a headache. Each one of those things on their own is pretty minor right now, but altogether it just has left me exhausted. So hopefully you'll see another video from me. I don't know. Oh, I guess I did put some text on the screen at the beginning because I forgot to do it before. If I'm feeling better, I'm going to try a live stream on Friday, this coming Friday. What is today? The 4th, so that means the 5th, the 6th, Friday, December 6th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Now, you're going to have to figure out your time zone compared, how many hours different it is. It's a time when a lot of viewers of my channel are online, and on Friday, you don't want to be working, you want to be listening to somebody. I'll do a bit of a video. I think I'm going to talk about things that I don't like about some knives. Common things that knife makers in this price range do that bug me. That kind of thing. I might do that. We'll see. I might not do anything. We'll find out. There you go. Do you have one? Yeah. Do you like it? It looks good. You don't often find compound grinds in this price range. So, at least not these days. So yeah, there it is. The MOCADO PFP08, designed in-house by somebody at Petrified Fish. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, friends, cut towards your chum, not your thumb.